He's happy. Bobby's not ready. What about you?
Okay, how about that? There we go. So thank you for coming on what is one of the most glorious evenings of the year. So
Annoyingly.
terrible timing for the organisers, but thank you very much. And we've got some brilliant speakers. So we're very lucky to be here with this panel. And just before we start, I thought it'd be a good idea if Shell, as one of the organisers of this, just told us a bit about what she's doing and why she's doing it and what the purpose of the second iteration of the festival is. So what is your motivation in doing it?
So the festival was co-founded, many of you in the room will know, this festival was co-founded by me and a couple of other lovely ladies in the village. And Helen came to me with her company and was like, I want to start up a festival. Her company is the Ross Niger Gin Company, and the profits from that are going back into the village. So she was like, how can we do this? What's the best way to do it? So we were like, yeah, okay. And my suggestion that with us doing a local festival was that we find a way to funnel kind of a community aspect into it. So we work with local young people from local towns, and we kind of filter them through the festival. So there is an offering that comes with the festival for young people that is kind of like I guess eventually it would be nice for it to be a sort of like academy. Like they come through, they're in the studio, they learn how to songwrite, they learn how to be in a studio environment, they get experience, and then eventually, you know, it would be nice to see those artists then later on, a couple of years later at the festival, you know, they've progressed and stuff like that. So the festival's got kind of two arms to it. It's got, yes, bringing a festival to the village, but it's also got the community aspect to it. So Alex and I have always worked on community projects with our studio in London, and it was something that we wanted to continue to work on when we moved here, because our strong belief is that you, wherever you are, you with your skills, bring value to that place. So that was the basis of why we created the festival.
And I think you've got 18 different events.
18 acts, I think, yeah. Across. So we decided that we wanted to, you know, Ross Niger's great, but can't predict the weather here. So we wanted to make sure that it was something that could happen every year regardless. And being from Liverpool, I always loved a festival there called Sound City, which kind of took place across different venues. So we kind of drew inspiration from that, and you know, would like to grow it to be more of that and include more venues in the future. So that everyone can kind of trail around the village and go to each venue and, you know, bring kind of custom into each venue as well and set up venues like the Morva, for example, in ways that it might not have been used before. Although the Morva is only a sports venue this year because they pissed us off last year. So, but like things like that, like basically just being able to involve. Sorry, am I not allowed to say that?
I'm sure Bobby, as one of the managers, is delighted.
Basically finding ways to kind of contribute to the whole village, because that's one thing that, you know, we definitely want to be aware of doing as well.
Okay, well, it's a brilliant thing to do, and so I think we should just thank you and the other organisers for bringing all this to the village.
Thank you.
And now I would like to introduce our great panel, if you could come up, or if you can tear yourselves away from the bar. So we've got Lisa Jen, a Welsh actress and singer with 9 Bach all over Europe or further afield than that?
Oh, the world.
The world. And taking Welsh language music, I think I'm right in saying, to all over the world.
Yes, and I mean, you know, New Zealand, Vietnam, Taiwan, Kuwait, you know, all over the world.
Brilliant. Yeah. And we've also got Ifan Davis from Radio Cymru. What are you doing at Radio Cymru, just to introduce yourself?
So I'm a presenter and a producer. I also play in a couple of Welsh language bands as well, and toured Europe, not world, just Europe.
Okay. And we got Dylan Marion, who is with. Now then, you are producing at Radio Cymru and also presenting.
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. But I'm mainly a producer for comedy, music, and nature shows.
Yep.
But I come from a background of being in bands and running a record label and having a recording studios. And I toured Llanrothan. Yeah.
How did it go?
Good. Yeah.
Was it a big event?
It was about 10, 12
Yeah, not
people.
bad, not bad.
All right.
Not bad then. Good. Well, look, but I think between the three, we've got amazing knowledge of local music. There's only one thing to do.
Wow.
That is.
so loud.
I've never heard it that
Yeah.
loud before.
That is noisy.
Somebody told me once you can recognise a local by they just don't turn their heads with that sound. They just carry on as normal.
So there's a lot of knowledge of music and culture in this area, and that's what I'd like to ask you about. So I think you said you're probably better on the history of this and where what's been happening up until now, and then we can move it on. So just give us. And are you mainly on Ysmôn, Anglesey, or are you?
Well, Wales in general, but I
Right.
could go in this one. I can go into
Yeah. So what's that? Why don't you just tell us about North Wales and what's been happening there?
Well, how far back do you want to go? I'll go back to for this area. You're going to have to go back to the 60s.
Okay.
Because you're lucky. Ross Nager had a band called the Anglesey Strangers. I always thought they were called the Anglesey Stranglers, which would be a better name, I think. But anyway, so you had the Anglesey Strangers who kind of kicked off after skiffle, like the rest of the UK. Pop in Wales kind of, manifested itself after the skiffle kind of boom. Anglesey Strangers kicked off from them, and they were touring in the early 60s around the UK. They ended up with Joe Meek, a famous producer in London who started off Rod Stewart, Tom Jones, and numerous other artists. So they did a single with them. Unfortunately, didn't quite hit the charts, but you had a very, very interesting music scene in Anglesey. A lot of rock and roll, early rock and roll, progressed later on then into the 70s, turned into prog. You've got the best Welsh prog band ever called Bran, who half of them were from Anglesey. Nest Howells was the singer. Ellen Fleer was here last year.
Was there last year.
So
yeah.
her mother,
Yeah.
Nest Howells, was the
Okay.
lead singer in
Right.
if you've got one of their albums at home, you're looking at £400-500 each.
How many have you got, Dill?
I've got 4 copies actually, but I don't go into that. But anyway, so you had that prog movement, and then that kind of, especially in Anglesey during the 70s, it turned into that folk rock thing. I think Alan Stivell from Brittany kind of influenced a lot of Welsh musicians, but in Anglesey, Bran kind of morphed into a band called Pererin, which again, very collectible, very expensive records, and Arfon Wyn, who's famous around Anglesey for doing a lot with young musicians, with disabled musicians. He's a fantastic guy. So blah, 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 blah. And then 80s, Gorwell Owen emerged on the scene. I think most people know who Gorwell is here. And, definitely probably one of the most important figures in Welsh music ever. He'd never say that himself. I'm glad he's not here. He messaged me to say, I'm really sorry I can't be there. But I was like, I'm glad because I am going to be bigging you up. And then Gorwell and his sister, Iniga Mogam, to be fair, Delith, fantastic band. Their cassettes are worth about 120 quid each, if you've got any Iniga Mogam cassettes. But Gorwell kind of just revolutionised Welsh music completely. He modernised it. There is kind of a cliche that Welsh music in the 60s, 70s kind of lagged behind. We had our punk scene in 1980, not in, but Gorwell kind of hit that kind of zeitgeist on the zeitgeist for a change. And, yeah. So.
Okay, so let me just raise an issue that's bound to present itself, I think, and tell me if I'm coming at this from the wrong angle. But
Yeah.
There must be a tension between producing material for Wales, for North Wales, for the local audience, and producing it for London, or trying to get to London and wanting to go to London or not. Is that, maybe, can you cope with that? Is that an issue for young talent here?
So I play in a lot of bands as well. I started playing in a Welsh band when I was about 15, 16, and we wanted to do Welsh language music.
Right.
I grew up going to might be going up to the Steddfod to a load of Welsh gigs in Mid Wales. So I'm from Llanegrin, Tywyn, Mid Wales, if you know it. And that was my ambition. It was to sing in Welsh in my native tongue. And that,
Locally?
Yeah, I guess so. When you're 15, 16, you don't think too much about how far you want to take it. I think you kind of just do it as fun with your friends, really, more than anything. I guess we all had dreams of playing Glastonbury or playing different festivals, and which we have done a couple. Tsunami then was the name of our band. We released two albums to date. We toured in the Netherlands a couple of times. We play in festivals across the UK. We've been down to London to do a lot of gigs and doing all of that through the medium of Welsh.
Yeah. And tell us what happens when you take Welsh language music abroad, because I think there's much less. Many European bands are using English less, right, than they used to. So in a way, it's part of that trend, I suppose.
I think what's become... so I sing in a Welsh language band. We happen to sing in the Welsh language. It's not like, a sort of stance, but that's what comes instinctive from me. That's how I songwrite. But, the barrier, there are no barriers. The barriers seem to be within the industry, never the audience. So our fan base, the Nine Bach, who sing in the Welsh language, we don't have that much fan base in Wales, within Welsh language community. Most of our fan base, we play to 500 people in London, and we might come to my hometown in Bethesda and play to 250. So literally our fan base is outside of Wales. So the barrier is never within the audience, it's within the industry.
Tell us about the barriers in the industry.
The barriers in the industry is why would we want to put a Welsh language band in King's Place in London? Why are we going to put a Welsh language band on at the Barbican? Because we have fans, and trust us, we will sell tickets. So they can't see how. So, for example, our first ever gig 20 years ago in London, nobody would put us on. We'd had a review in The Guardian, there was that. Nobody would put us on. So what did we do? We hired a PA, we hired a venue in Hackney, and we put on our own gig. We had about 60 people. The following year, we did the same thing again. We had 250 people. And then you have to sort of prove yourself all the time. And then we played, we've played in King's Place twice and, all over London. But it's the confidence that people don't have, that industry doesn't have, to see through the barrier of the language. Because if the music's good, and I'm going to say that, and I'm not saying, we're good. If the music is good, and it's good quality, and the musicians are good, and the songs resonate, and it has something about it, then, you have to push through that barrier.
What happens when you go to a promoter in Cardiff?
I guess the Welsh language music scene, a lot of people know each other anyway, so I guess... I'm not sure, Lisa. What do you think?
Would you have any trouble getting somewhere to perform there? Would people be more open?
It's not easy. Getting gigs in general is not easy.
You have to have fans. People have to like your music for people to have the confidence to put you on. Because they're investing in these gigs, so the venues...
I get that, but I'm just surprised that there's not more positivity in Cardiff.
Well, I was thinking Georgia Ruth, for example, was doing a call-out, does anyone want to give me a gig?
Yeah.
And that's someone who's won awards and...
Welsh Music Prize, and,
she's amazing. And, she's got to go, anyone want to give me a gig? It's not easy to...
Then you had Tafwyl, a festival that's in Cardiff, solely Welsh language festival. Yep. In Cardiff last month, and I think it's got a capacity of 10,000. Yeah, and it was full for the 3 days. So that's
they were actually turning people away.
Yeah, and the whole point of Tafwyl, it's organised to kind of, I guess, get Cardiff residents who haven't been brought up with a Welsh-speaking background to get involved in the Welsh language, and I think sometimes, especially in the last 10, 20 years, Welsh language music has been used by a lot of government kind of organisations to try and promote the Welsh language. I think they see it as a good gateway into speaking the language.
So that's Welsh government?
Welsh government, yeah. British Council send a lot of Welsh singing acts abroad as well. But somehow I think Welsh music is kind of it is a good gate into speaking Welsh. I can think of many people I know who've moved from London, moved from other part America, who speak Welsh because they got into Super Animals, Gorky's Exotic Monkey in the 90s, and they were like, these bands, they're singing in English, but they're also singing something we don't quite understand. I want to understand it. I'm going to learn the language.
And when you think about the Welsh language music industry, let's say, is most of it North Wales, or is it the whole of Wales?
Historically, historically started in Cardiff. All the Welsh labels were Cardiff or Swansea based.
Okay.
Sain, the most famous Welsh language label, David Iwan was started in Cardiff before they moved up to North Wales. So during the 70s and 80s, 90s, Angst Records started in North Wales, moved down to Cardiff when Super Animals, Gorky's, Catatonia and that, Cool Cymru kicked off. So I'd find it hard to argue it is a North Wales or South Wales thing. It's
all over.
Maybe a West Wales thing.
Okay.
Other than Cardiff, there's there's one label I can think of in Powys maybe. Okay. But other than that, I think you West Walian kind of thing.
Okay, so tell us a bit about the funding arrangements. You were mentioning the Welsh government's got some interest. They spend quite a lot of money. The Welsh government, I looked it up before coming, there's 200 million a year on offer for culture. Would Welsh language contemporary music be getting much of that 200 million?
Good question. There's some funding available for Welsh musicians. You've got the Wales Arts International who fund different projects. Have you worked with them, Lisa, in the past to do touring and stuff?
Not with we haven't. We've been refused funding for the last 10 years now. So I'm really not trying to not be bitter, but it's hard. We've been trying. Like we've got good setup, we've got good show, we've got we try really hard. We've got like visuals. We really think our artwork through, and they just don't want to help us anymore. So the problem with our band is that we are on Peter Gabriel's record label, Real World Records. And out of contract. And the problem is, in Wales, they think, they're fine, they're on Real World Records. They don't understand we're like 20 grand in debt to them, do you know what I mean? So, but I'm probably not the best one to talk about funding. We're finding it very hard.
So I think when you're talking about the 200 million available in funding, you're talking about the arts.
Yeah, sure.
Overall.
A lot of it goes to big national institutions.
Well, So I think the major benefactor of grants in Wales has always been the classical and the opera sector. Yep. So you've got Mid Wales National Orchestra, you've got Welsh National Orchestra. You've got two big organisations there that get tens of millions of funding. Yep. So a big chunk of that goes there. Then you've got dance. Gets a big chunk of funding. You've obviously got arts. But they call with gain and the painting and I'm trying to think of the English word. Sorry, English is my third language. So first language Welsh, second language love. But
Tell me.
But it does sound like a lot of money for the arts, and it's great that it is. But when it comes down to music, especially modern music, once it trickles down, there's not a lot of money available for the kind of grassroots bands.
And they certainly don't want to fund you for touring either or recording. So, the two things that people struggle with financially, there's like a criteria that it's not there to fund your tour or to fund your studio time.
But you've had support from the British Council, did I gather?
We were lucky enough to go out to Australia and collaborate with First Nation bands for the Cultural Olympiad in 2012. Right. It totally changed my life. But so we British Council sort of paired us with a First Nation supergroup of Indigenous singers there, and we had to collaborate and make a show for the Olympics 2012 in London for the Cultural Olympiad.
Did you?
Yeah. It was amazing.
I mean, I can't let a comment go like this changed my life without.
It changed my life because I, at the time, was singing Welsh folk songs. So we had 9 Bach going and we'd done an album and we were, my interest was like, oh, let's revive these old Welsh folk songs and kind of do them in a trip-hoppy. We have a harp, but it goes through an effect. So people think that we're really folky, but we're actually kind of that coming down music, 4 o'clock in the morning, sort of like mantra-y, like, whoa, zoney outy. And I was fine doing that, just folk songs, finding folk songs in old books and stuff. But when I went to Australia, I was put in a room with a keyboard and these amazing First Nation musicians. And basically, throughout the week, they were telling me their stories about the stolen generation. I was actually making music with a victim of the stolen generation. And then I went into the Northern Territory and was in sort of this remote Aboriginal community. And in the end, I was in the back of a 4x4 going through the red dirt and I was literally vomiting songs. Wow. So my husband had tried, who's in the band with me, like, why don't you write some original songs? Why don't we start writing songs? I was like, I don't want to write songs. And when I was in Australia, like literally was just pouring out of me because of the pain, because of the stories, because of language, because of connecting to land, connecting to culture, I came home and I just wrote our second album called Tinkian, which then won the BBC Radio 2 Folk Award for Best Album. So yeah, it changed my life.
So just tell us, Ifan, you've been performing and
still playing a few bands. Yeah.
How does your experience compare to these in terms of the struggles of getting gigs and getting funding and getting going?
In all honesty, for me, I think mainly doing stuff through the medium of Welsh in Dolgellau to start with, and then there's a lot of opportunities out there within the Welsh language music scene in Wales. So the Eisteddfod next week, when we were 1670, we tried the Battle of the Bands competition when the Eisteddfod was in Wrexham. We won that year. And then off the back of that, we got offered a radio session with Radio Cymru, who I now also work for. We got offered to do a slot on a S4C music show, which was great, do 3 live songs on a show there for 16, 17-year-olds. That was an amazing opportunity. We got to go down to Cardiff to play at Clwb Ifor Bach. Started supporting other kind of more established Welsh bands, and then work your way up from that.
It's interesting. Last year, in the conversation, there's something which surprised me was Tudur and Ellen, wasn't it? And they were saying that actually starting out in Welsh helped them because there is a whole setup and there are avenues and there are opportunities, and as you say, it's probably quite a world in which everyone knows each other and you can break into it. So that was interesting to me that they both suggested, having reached quite prominent positions, that the Welsh aspect of it was helpful to them. It gave them a good start. Is that something you recognise?
Definitely. As in, if you compare us to a band from Manchester, Liverpool, the opportunities we had at that age, it was amazing.
I think that's just going back to what Shell was saying earlier on about the opportunities here and the sort of vision around working, grassroots and sort of like bringing young bands in and hopefully seeing them play in 2 years. That is vitally important, because what tends to happen, or what has been happening, like with schemes like Horizon and stuff like that, is if you don't. So I think is Wales Horizon specific for Wales? Yeah. So we kind of. Like all of a sudden, you kind of almost get fast-tracked and you're playing Glastonbury and the BBC introducing or whatever, but you don't know what a DI box is and you're not quite sure how to use your monitor guy. And all of a sudden, like, these bands aren't ready. So it's all good and well, going, we'll put you on a platform and wow, we've got you a gig in Glastonbury, when these poor musicians are completely dissociated and they don't know how to use their crew and they don't know what to do on stage and what does this plug into and sorry, who, what? And you just think, oh God, no, it's too soon. You have to have that sort of build in order to have that confidence, in order to be able to front your audience, and I think that's vitally important, that you do get those opportunities to learn and make those mistakes, and not on the Glastonbury stage.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it does allow for mistakes. That's the difference. I think the Welsh language scene, it does let bands have some kind of exposure, but also let them have time to just stay and get better and make mistakes where possibly if they were in a Manchester, Birmingham, Coventry, London scene, they'd give up.
It'd be harder and tougher.
Yeah.
Well, and they'd give up. Achlysurol, who are playing in the festival, is a very good example. So I produce quite a few music-based radio shows. And when they used to send us their music in, I never used to play them because I just wasn't a fan, didn't quite get it, thought it was... Anyway, I think it'd be going good few years.
Yeah, they have.
Their last album, God, it's good. And they've turned into a very, very good live band. And I can imagine if they existed in Edinburgh, possibly,
That's true.
they would have given up. But because they did get that small exposure in Wales, a little telly gig here, a little gig in the Eisteddfod here, they've continued and they've been allowed to mature and turn into a fantastic band. So if you get a chance to go and see them this weekend, go.
They are good.
Because they are genuinely worth seeing.
Why don't we tell people
it's
when
Achlysurol.
They're playing at 6, I think.
Yeah.
Achlysurol 6:15
Yeah.
neuadd Bentref
And
in
Village
the
Hall.
in Trosney.
And they
Village
come from a
Hall.
long line. Their uncle is a musician called Endaf Emlyn, who is one of the best musicians ever. He was a demo singer for EMI in Abbey Road, so all the demos he used to sing them before they sent them out.
Right.
He was a BBC announcer for years, and he released a trio of albums in the 70s, which are some of the best folk albums ever, and I say that in any language.
So you three are now here talking in English to a group which will be some bilingual and some English only. When you are doing your music, do you ever want to reach out in English, or do you? You're saying it's not a statement. Singing in Welsh is just what you do. But do you ever feel that in a context like this, you're doing it in English? Do you ever feel that English would get you a bigger audience, I suppose?
My band, we went out to play in a festival called Eurosonic, which is like a showcase festival in Holland I mentioned earlier, similar to Focus Wales Festival in Wrexham. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. And to go out there, we did do our first English language single because we just thought, we were going there as a Radio 1 nominated artist. And then we decided to record our first English language track, and it got played on Radio 1 a couple of times. Would that song have been played on Radio 1 if it was Welsh language song? I'm not sure, but we've had a couple of Welsh songs on Radio 1 in the past too. But yeah, that was the decision we made at the time for that festival specifically. But then I think it's the only English track we've done.
And when you look back on it, do you pleased or do you regret a bit?
It generated some royalties from being played on Radio 1. So yeah, I'm quite happy.
So no regrets there then.
No.
No, exactly. Okay, well, first of all, I would like to say, if anyone wants to ask anything, please do. Let's do that now, yeah.
So, fantastic discussion, really enjoyed it. One of the things that I grew up playing music. I never became a professional, but I really enjoyed it. And now I'm old and an old fart. But anyway, the point was that what I found when I was a youngster was that hospitality went through a whole series of different changes that meant you had to change what you could and couldn't do. And I when I was at college in Manchester, for example, there was a change in the fire regulations, which meant that you couldn't get up with a band anymore. You could only have 2 people on stage at the same time in a pub, which was, when you're there with a sort of 4 or 5 piece band, that's the pants, really. But it's that type of gig where you start to learn the thing about, DI boxes and how to use your PA and so on and so forth. But you've got to have that opportunity to do those small gigs in pubs, and usually it's in the hospitality arena where you get that. Whether you've got Welsh funding or wherever you are, that's where it is, and that's been cut off. We were playing the last sort of 10 years in the area, and we used to go out for 400 or 500 quid a gig, and then after COVID, we had to cut back 250 quid a gig.
Have you looked at
You know, and it's because hospitality's been caned, and it's about the availability of the hospitality gig.
Yeah.
Now at the the Oyster Catcher, they don't employ bands; they only employ
Yeah, I noticed that they've got the
singer
singer-songwriter.
guitarists.
But have you looked at the night out Noson scheme?
So yeah, my wife Lorna's been putting those on, and it's fantastic. What a great thing! But I wanted to ask you what you thought about that and whether you agree with that.
So can you explain what that is?
So a Noson night out is a scheme run by it's Welsh government funded, but it comes down to different areas, and they'll pay you to put a night on, or they'll pay the artist, they'll cover the artist's fee. Now, it's a fantastic scheme as long as the person getting the funding is a fantastic person. Because I'm not quite sure what the management of it is on a smaller scale. I've been to gigs where there's just been no PR, there's been no advertising, there's been nobody there. And the band don't care really because they're getting paid the same amount. The organisers, they're a bit, we've not lost any money, but it is a fantastic scheme, and it covers more than just...
You promote it, don't you, and make sure that it's a good night,
But it covers more than
financial, security
comedy,
is there,
Yeah, comedy, speakers, bands. It's definitely worth looking. So it's Noson Allan yn Gymraeg on night out, and definitely a brilliant scheme.
Okay, any more questions?
Sorry, one of the things I will just point out again, having been brought up in England, one thing that's always struck me about Welsh culture is the Eisteddfod and the Earth. And do you not think that children and young people in Wales have a much more positive attitude to going out and performing than we did in England, where if you weren't brilliant, you didn't bother? Because, as you say, you're allowed to fail because everybody goes through that, or more. It seems that more children are encouraged to go through that.
Yes, I think in our culture, in our Sunday school, in our schools, so we spend a lot of time singing in school in general anyway, whether it's Eisteddfod or practicing for the Earth. But I'd love to let you into a little secret there. I am obviously first language Welsh, and I've been brought up in the Eisteddfod, and I am really trying to derobe that off me because it actually can be quite damaging because it's also quite competitive. So although we're given that confidence as children, you are competing against your peers, and you're competing for who's got the best voice. And you cannot, I never, this is me being bitter, but not at all, I couldn't care less, but I never won at the Eisteddfod because I held a note too long, or Welsh folk song. Like, Welsh folk songs are our soul music. Yeah. You can't,
Judge.
You can't judge kids for singing from the heart, So actually, a lot of us Welsh musicians now are actually going, you know what? This has been quite damaging for us, but I know what you mean. I don't want to bring it down in that sense because, yes, we spend a lot of time singing in our culture, but with the whole Eisteddfod thing, we've got to really peel that off us once we go into a more of a sort of, worldly, because also what happens to us as well, I could be in a studio and I sing one note out of tune and I hate myself. And that's because of the bloody Eisteddfod, precision. So it's like, no, it's fine, I can do another take. And unless I nail it and I can do a 4-part harmony to a line, then I hate myself. And so, there's the pros and cons to the Eisteddfod.
Lisa's not going to say this. She did a fantastic run in Edinburgh. In a show
called Double Drop,
She wrote and acted in it. It was a month in Edinburgh. I was lucky enough to go and watch it, English language, and it was all about this. It's fantastic. So she's not going to say it. So she's not only an amazing musician, amazing writer and actress
you got
as well.
You play out of it.
I did, I'm soon to make a film out of it. Hopefully.
I've got similar feelings to the Eisteddfod. It's an interesting thing. I think it's fantastic. I think it's amazing. But I also think it could be... Can I say it? I'm going to get in trouble. I think Welsh choirs are the graveyard of creativity because
not just Welsh.
not all of them. I think they're brilliant. I enjoy Cor Brythoniaid. I enjoy all the choirs. I think people who are members of them, go for it. It's a fantastic social, and it's good to sing. It's always good to perform. It worries me that... I'm trying to find a nice way to say it. It worries me that singing other people's songs doesn't breed writing songs, doesn't breed creativity. So when you've got a generation of younger people... So when I was younger, people went to universities and started bands. I think nowadays in Wales, young people go to universities and join choirs. And
I'm not sure.
Do you not?
I certainly...
Think about it. I think there's more young choirs in Cardiff University than there are Cardiff bands.
Yeah, maybe.
But also, when you think about when we were growing up, I also don't think that that young people in general want to be in bands anymore. Like,
No,
being in a
okay, fair
band
enough.
was such a cool thing, and we all wanted to be in a band, and there were bands formed like everywhere around your school. And I've got a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, and it's like, you know, both their parents are musicians and in a band, and they're just like, well, no, I don't want to be as skint as you are. Like, we want to get a proper job. But that interest in live music, I
possibly.
think, is dwindling just from what I'm seeing with the youth. But I don't know. Maybe
But
that's
both
just...
of you saying with the Eisteddfod sort of culture, is it, and maybe with the choirs, that it's quite formalised and it's not giving enough space. I think you're saying
It can be, but then on the other
creativity,
side, the Eisteddfod have a youth festival paired with it called My Spee, and if you're in a band, you could play there on Friday night to, you know, between 5,000 and 10,000 people, and it's a fantastic kind of, you know, for bands. But yeah. I apologise to any...
Slagging the Eisteddfod off is a bit of an aside.
Don't quote me on that. But yeah, the Eisteddfod is brilliant, especially for bands.
Yeah.
But like Lisa said, there is that pressure also to be
Yeah, and I think it's important to hear Welsh language people within, you know, kind of having qualms with it as well, because the Eisteddfod can feel like this sacred thing, and it is a sacred thing. Because I think it's quite refreshing to hear people like us go, actually, we've got a bit of a problem with it, because, you know, I don't know, I think it's important to have that dual side of things.
Any other questions?
Well, first an observation before the question, but I agree with you on the demise of bands. I think I heard some stat a little while ago that the number of bands who've made number one in the last 15 years is something like a handful, compared to pre-92, 2000, whatever, was just, you know, most number ones were bands. Now very, very few ever are.
It's all about being a solo artist.
Yeah,
now,
I
isn't
blame
it?
Simon Cowell and X Factor, and then Ed Sheeran, and everyone's trying to be like
And
Ed
David
Sheeran.
Cameron.
And David Cameron.
Well, no, genuinely...
He
I
was
think-
never a good singer,
No,
though, was he?
genuinely, if, you know, it's... Politics affects music.
Yeah.
It affects society. So, Thatcher, 80s, rise of the solo artist, rise of snooker, rise of darts, the solo hero. It wasn't a team game that was popular. It was 28 million people watching people playing snooker. The one.
And all of them over 80.
Which is great, but it was a representation of the politics of the time. It was the self. It wasn't community. And since Cameron was, again, you can imagine the rise of the solo artist, the one, not the society, not the, you know. And I don't mean that in a left or right way. I just mean music reflects the politics, I think.
Didn't he have
in the end?
Wasn't he about the big society? What was
Yeah,
Cameron's
well.
slogan? Wasn't that supposed to be about that?
that was a 10-minute thing.
Yep. But the funding side you were talking about, I found interesting, because you were saying that dance gets lots of money. I can understand theatre and movies getting a lot of money. Culturally, they do very well, you know, and generate a lot of money. But if you look at what the contemporary music scene has done, and English music, I mean, you go anywhere in the world and you'll hear people who don't even speak English singing a Beatles song, even though they don't know what the words are, and they'll just sing something that sounds like it. And I think the music industry has done so much for expanding the English language around the world. I'm sure it must be comparable, or there must be a similar thing with the Welsh language. The more you do it. But I just find it bizarre that that doesn't get recognised and supported at political levels, and they give the money to dancers.
Oh no!
Not that there's anything wrong with dance.
No,
but it doesn't do the same I mean, it doesn't provide the same success. And
it does get supported. I'm just saying, compared to classical and more kind of, I think the dance thing more comes into. It's brilliant for young people, isn't it? In Anglesey, you've got Amlwch. Can't remember what she's called, with a fantastic dance company who does loads for young working class kids. So, but it's you've got that kind of dual thing with music always. Do you want to be funded by the government? You know, that's the kind of psychology of being in a band as well. Do I want to be a government sponsored node or whatever you want to call it? You
So
know?
if you're not funded and if you don't have a record company behind you, then how do you do it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you don't have a millionaire dads. So how do you how are you as a band starting out gonna fund your couple of tracks over 3 days in a record and how are you gonna fund a tour? Because, you know I sing with Griff Rhys from the Super Free Animals. I've toured with him over 20 years. We kind of most of the time, but he most of the time loses money on tour, you know, at that caliber. So, like, you have to be kind of Coldplay, Beyonce or above, Jason Status or above to be doing mega bucks on tours. And that's mainly on your merch. You know, just the merch flying out. Like, most bands at a certain level lose money touring. So, you know, yeah.
Noswaith dda, diolch yn fawr iawn am y sylwadau, diddorol iawn. Thanks very much for your comments, it's been very interesting. Just going back to the purpose of this festival in Osnaga to promote young, inexperienced bands, and sort of rolling that forward to the Eisteddfod, where Battle of the Bands, where there was a massive controversy in the Battle of the Bands in Cardiff, where 2018, where the best band came second.
Who were they?
Pa band?
Karma.
Were you a judge, Ifan?
Nah, I didn't believe that. Not that yet. No.
But in a few weeks, we've already had Tafwyl. My Spee will be coming up. Llwyfan y Maes in the Eisteddfod. And it occurs to me that the same bands turn up year after year after year. Noson Lawen, the same sort of session guitarists turn up. And it seems to me that the BBC have their safe bet, if you like. So all this effort goes to encouraging, promoting young talent, and yet it all falls a bit flat where, you know, the bands that will be appearing in My Spee are now getting to middle age at best. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts on, well, even younger than us, but there will be the same bands on My Spee this year that have been there last year and the year before, and the disparity between the average age of the audience and average age of the band on stage.
And you think this is because basically, I mean, that chimes with me, safe bands. It's the same in comedy and various other bits where the BBC is always worried.
I think so, but I'm just wondering, first of all, is it my perception, or do you see that from an industry perspective as well?
Who'd like to take that on?
It's a good question, because
I think a lot of the headliners do get repeated, but further down the lineup, I think there's more variation in the lineup than what I think you probably think there is. And at the end of the day, these festivals need to sell the tickets and they need the following. So I guess I know new bands need the opportunities through stuff like the Brwydyr y Bandiau, the Battle of the Bands, the Eisteddfod, but you need people to be excited to go and watch the big bands, the ones that do have that have been touring, that do have the fan base, that have the streams. I guess naturally the bookers and the promoters will want to put those names on to play at those festivals. And yeah, beth i fod fel.
I'm trying to think, but what was the name of the band that had the travesty in the Battle of the Bands? Karma.
Ah, yeah.
And dyn nhw wedi rhai peth erbyn hyn? That's one of the issues, unfortunately, so Karma haven't released anything yet. And I think it is kind of that centralisation of organisers who don't go out like they used to gigs everywhere. And possibly if you don't see a band playing in Rhosneger, you're not going to book them for Cardiff. And it's harder if you haven't... Because when I started in bands, I think 98, we just recorded a demo, sent it out. You know, it was quite raw, but at least they got to hear us and then you got booked there. And I think Spotify's taken over as well, streaming as kind of a measure.
Yeah, you can see the figures now.
It's quite brutal, really.
Yeah.
You can see the figure of, okay, this band's released this a week ago, they've had this much streams, they must be popular.
And that's the measure.
A lot of the time. I'm not saying it is, but
one of the main ones, probably.
I think in music, and not just in Wales, I think...
Yeah, it's not just in
I
Wales.
know.
I think it's a... Yeah.
And also, people aren't, releasing albums. People will just kind of drop songs here and there. And so,
Yeah.
if you haven't got an album, or if you haven't got anything to actually promote, then how are you expected to have a gig? I guess. So the whole point is that you're ready. You're a rounded package. You've got 10 songs. You can do a 40-minute set. You can, you have something to sell. You've got something to promote. With streaming and just sort of drop feeding a song here and there, and it being sort of, championed for 1 week and 1 week only, and then it kind of falls flat on its face, then, But I do agree,
The Welsh language isn't immune to the death of attention, is it? So that's the unfortunate truth is you've got, these days, 5 seconds, 10 seconds at best to impress somebody with a piece of music before they swipe on.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And be it English,
it's
French,
brutal.
Welsh,
Yeah.
that's your stage. That 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. I grew up in the 70s, and every local bar in the 70s of a weekend would have a live band on. Nowadays, there's absolutely no live bands anywhere.
There are here.
Well, so I think this is a really great idea, but how do you promote that to a further field?
Social media, I guess, is it? Is that what? Yeah, a lot of new artists now do a lot of the live streams on TikToks and stuff, and Instagram and all that stuff. I know an artist called Ben Ellis from Cardiff who's got a couple of Welsh language songs. During lockdown, he just did constant, or every night at like 7 p.m, he did all these TikTok live streams. There's like 2 or 3 people watching to start with. By the end of the first month, he had like 100 people watching. By 6 months, he then had like 600 people watching. So I think I think that's in general for North Wales. There aren't many venues. There's a lot going on over the summer with festivals and stuff, and Neodd Ogwen's doing brilliant stuff, Pontio, Gallery. But I think if I was a new band starting now, I'd be just all over.
But I'm not sure how much the culture of playing in pubs exists anymore within younger bands. Yeah. I don't think, I just don't, I'm not sure if they understand it as a concept. No. Definitely when I was younger, it was, like you said, if you started a band, you'd play the local pubs, random.
So why do you think that is?
I'm not quite sure. I guess, as earlier, change of licensing laws, change of, is a pub going to risk? I know these bands, when back in my day, you'd do the gig for 100 quid, 50 quid, whatever, just to get the ball rolling. I'm not sure if pubs have that expenditure anymore to take that risk.
Yeah. 50% of uploaded music is AI.
Yeah.
So how...
May I?
So I play in a band in Manchester. Not a famous one, but I play in pubs and clubs and stuff. But 50% of uploaded music. So for new artists, how on earth do you get past that barrier?
I think the unfortunate answer is you don't.
No.
I think that's going to be a grim answer. You don't. You just do it locally. You hope you get picked up locally. Yeah. You create a following locally, and you concentrate on there. Yeah. Because the truth is, there are billions of pounds invested in these companies. But you can tell it's AI. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it might be, we have to remember, recorded music has only existed for max 110 years. Music before now was never recorded. It was always a communal live experience. To act like we're losing recorded music can sound quite unrealistic. We have to, I think, the answer to AI music is to go back and remember that music is a live social experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, have you? Oh, right.
and it's possibly just a change of the guard to let's go back to what it has been for the majority of history.
Yeah.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Lisa Jen, your album Tinkian was fantastic and obviously award-winning, and you've explained what your inspiration for it was. Have you got another award-winning album to come? Are you sort of, how do you look for that sort of experience to create more sort of
So
music?
after Tinkian came Anyan, which was nominated but never won an award, and that's fine. Oh my God, I sound like I've got like all these like things, and it's just the way that I'm saying them is hilarious. So, and so we're a band. We're a very old. I think tired band as well. We've been going for 20 years, and and a middle-aged band. So how, and we've discussed a bit of this, like how do we think if we start singing in the English language, we would jet stream to somewhere a bit further than we already are, and some of our songs are 7 minutes long. They're not very radio friendly. Do we then work on 3-minute 49-second songs? There's this thing that you can think, oh, if I do this, then I might be a bit more successful if I do this. And unless you're staying true to yourself, I don't think it's going to work for me. But one thing I have done is stay true to myself, is gone, I've done 3 albums now and everything's pretty zony-outy and pretty sort of come-down music. I'm a raver at heart. We were so lucky, especially in Anglesey and, Cable Bay, Portray Castell. We had the cracking raves here in the 90s. And I've kind of wanted to be like my themes are really heavy, like we've spoke about the Stolen Generation, or they're very political themes, underground. You can't really tell by listening, but I always come from like a really heavy place, and I just kind of wanted to dance a bit more on stage. I just want to be a bit freer. So the next album that's taken ages to come out is where, again, you have to evolve, you have to reinvent yourself all the time. So yes, we've got an album that we'll be working on for ages, is ready, but it's very much more sort of trancey, and it's kind of, we've ditched the harp, it's much more electronic, and I can actually move to the beat a bit more, which I'm happy with, if that answers your question.
Cool.
Thank you.
I think we've got time for one more. Yeah.
Okay. First, I just wanted to really praise all of you, because I think the love you're giving to the community and the youth coming through comes out from Miles. And I'm not a musician by background. I'm a nurse by background, and we've always been told as nurses we're terrible for looking after our young nurses coming through.
Oh.
We eat our young, we're criticised, and actually you are reaching out to them. But this question around creativity is something I find fascinating. We've formalised music education now. If you look at universities, there's so many universities or private sector academies selling students the dream, and it's very structured. You've talked again about you supporting the Welsh language. When I go around Liverpool, well, that's where my background in the bands, the pub bands there, it's great. They're not all dead, there are pub bands there. Yeah. But very few are brave enough to play their own songs.
Yeah.
What they're always doing is playing the known hitters. Dare I say it now, it's more Wonderwall rather than the Beatles.
Yeah.
But what I hear from you, though, is, and the opportunity here is the creativity in the Welsh language, bringing forward that story, maintaining the identity, is an opportunity.
That's really interesting. Do you think there is more original Welsh music than there would be English music, proportionally?
Probably not.
No, it's the same.
It's the same. It's just it's hard, isn't it? we do have, I don't want to say easier, but people platformed in Wales to a Welsh-speaking audience. I guess you could say easier, probably, than a band in Manchester or an English city. The creativity's still there, but the word creativity to me is a kind of a hard one, because it's, you asking that question is creativity. It's you going to watch a gig is creativity. It's just that the fact that it's recorded or released doesn't make it any more special than you sitting at home doing a doodle on your whilst you're on the phone. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, it's communicating music, isn't it? Whatever language it is, it's inviting your audience in. And I think that's what I don't know, but apparently that's what we do well as Nine Bach is bring a non-Welsh language audience into our bosom. And how do you do that? Because you effortlessly sing in the Welsh language, but how then do you make an audience feel? Because if some people tune to music, don't they, and some people tune to lyrics, and I think we could all put our hands up and say, music for me. If I don't resonate with the music, or don't like the voice, and if I don't, lyrics and whatever, I need to feel the music. I don't give a shit what they're saying lyrically. I don't know. For me, it's the music and the voice and the musicality of things. But it's having the confidence to communicate that almost, and bringing that in terms of creativity for me. If that kind of gone off piste, but yeah.
We're going to have one more. Yeah.
Thank you. What a brilliant start to the festival. Thank you so much for your contribution. And I think Shell gave a wonderful introduction about why this matters to us and why we're doing it. So I'd love to hear advice from each of you about what would you recommend we did to make this festival get better and better every year.
That's a lovely question.
Have a gig on the golf course, because I'm looking at that as a perfect place for a stage.
Yeah.
Put a concert on there.
That question, and also for us to communicate to the younger bands as well, what should they be on top of? What should they be checking out? What things should they be check that out, check that local thing that's going on, check that night out, check that company who's doing, what should we be on top of?
Have you been to the Session Hour down in Dolgella?
No.
So the Session Hour, it's just been last weekend. It's a brilliant example. So it was a festival that began as a street festival, expanded to having paid 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 capacity, 80,000 police bill a year to police it, failed, started again as a street festival. By now, they have one big gig behind the paywall, which is still quite cheap, and the rest of the festival is on the streets and in the pubs. And
with a lot of local artists.
With a lot of local artists, but a lot of artists from across Europe. So, and Britain, the headline this year was Andanza Dub, which was like a Scottish dub folk fusion. But what was fantastic was on the Friday night, they only have the paywalled gig. But the town was absolutely packed with people who were coming down for the free gig that was happening on the
on the square.
On the square on the Saturday. So the square is for free on the Saturday till 5, and then you've got one big paid gig. But in the pubs, oh my God, it was buzzing. And you've got the best kind of venue for that venue. This town is, the view, the area. So I'd go after that route, kind of, and I take it the pubs are getting grants. I take it to put those gigs on. In Session Hour, in Session Hour.
No, I'm not sure. No, I don't think they are. No, I think...
No, they might have... Yeah, I think because that one paywalled gig brings so much people in.
Okay, that's your top tip.
I guess how far do you want to take it? Do you want to keep it local-ish, the festival?
I don't want it to overpower the village at any point. I'd like to always keep it as like a boutique thing where you come and see great acts, and that way that we've done it is actually something that we're probably talking about for future years.
Have like one main event where it'd be a ticketed
With behind the
thing
paywall, but actually we still want to have the free offering throughout the town.
Oh, cool. I grew up going to Wakestock Festival in the Llŷn Peninsula, and because you're right by the sea, you could maybe kind of have some more like not snowboarding, what is it called? Wakeboarding and stuff involved in the afternoons. Get like, I don't know, maybe that would be cool. Yeah, windsurfing as well.
I'd say just keep doing what you're doing. Engage with community, engage locally. Talk to people, talk to the organisers of Session Vowed. How do you do it? Like constantly chat. Bring people into your bosom. Reach out, get young kids, and keep doing what you're doing. I'd say.
Do you know Coleg Menai in Bangor? Yeah, maybe get some of those students involved with engineering stuff. That would be cool.
Thank you all very much. Thank you to Dylan, Lisa and Ifan for a brilliant start to what's going to be a brilliant weekend. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And we're very grateful.